Hey YNR fans! Waving hand, welcome to YNR Trends, your go-to spot for the juiciest Young and the Restless updates, shocking spoilers, and all the drama you can't stop talking about. From surprise returns to scandalous twists, we break it all down for you, every day. So grab your coffee, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive right into Genoa City's hottest gossip. Alright, let's dive in and start building this 2,000-word story, part by part in long flowing paragraphs with no headlines, just as if it's being narrated for your YouTube spoilers. I'll begin with the first long section now, and we'll continue part by part until we reach the full length. The courtroom in Genoa City was filled with an uneasy tension that could be felt in the pit of every stomach. The chandeliers above flickered against the polished wooden walls, casting a strange glow on the faces of those who had gathered to watch. Whispers rippled quietly through the gallery as Mariah sat at the defense table, her hands trembling ever so slightly, though she tried to keep them still. She had spent weeks convincing herself that things wouldn't come to this, that somehow she would find a way out, that her family's influence or the shaky foundation of the case would collapse before it reached this point. But when the bailiff called Noah's name, the air seemed to freeze, and her eyes widened in disbelief. She hadn't expected him, not here, not now, not standing against her. Noah Newman, her own brother, was about to take the stand, and from the look in his eyes, it was clear he had come not to defend her, but to bury her. Noah walked with slow, deliberate steps, shoulders squared and expression grim. The memories weighed on him, long nights of worry, suspicions he ignored, secrets he uncovered piece by piece until they could no longer be denied. He had tried to protect Mariah once, excusing her behavior as desperation, as grief, as poor judgment driven by her need to control. But what he found, what he couldn't forget, went beyond excuses. Noah paused before raising his right hand to swear in, his gaze momentarily meeting Mariah's. For the briefest moment, something flickered in her eyes, fear, anger, maybe even betrayal. He pushed it aside and took his place on the witness stand, the hush in the courtroom so deep it seemed the very air was holding its breath. The prosecutor, with a quiet nod of reassurance, began the questioning, but Noah hardly needed prompting. His voice carried steady, though heavy, as he recounted events that many in Genoa City had only heard as whispers. He spoke of Mariah's manipulations, her schemes carried out in the shadows, her relentless determination to bend situations in her favor no matter who it hurt. He painted a picture of a woman who, despite her family name and chances to make amends, could not resist crossing lines. Noah's words cut sharper than any attorney could manage, because they came not from a rival, not from an enemy, but from her own flesh and blood. Each word was another brick pulled from the fragile wall Mariah had tried to build around her defenses, leaving her exposed to the judgment of everyone watching. Mariah sat frozen, her chest tightening with every detail Noah shared. She could see the jurors leaning forward, hanging on his words, and she hated the power he suddenly had. Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to object, to scream that he was twisting the truth, that he was betraying her in the cruelest way possible. But deep down, buried beneath her indignation, she knew Noah was speaking truths she could no longer hide from. He described the night he followed her, the documents he uncovered, the lies she spun to cover her tracks. Each revelation echoed like a gavel strike, relentless and unforgiving. Noah didn't look at her as he spoke. Instead, his eyes shifted toward the judge, toward the jurors, toward the weight of what justice meant. But inside, his heart ached. This wasn't just about exposing crimes, it was about facing the reality that someone he loved had gone too far, that his loyalty had limits, that he had to choose the truth even if it destroyed her. He remembered late-night talks with Sharon, her warnings that family loyalty couldn't erase accountability. He remembered Nick's voice reminding him that doing the right thing wasn't always the easy thing. And here he was, in the center of it all, standing against his own sister because the alternative meant being complicit in her downfall. Mariah's attorney tried to poke holes in Noah's testimony, suggesting his words were colored by resentment, by sibling rivalry, by old wounds that hadn't healed. But Noah remained composed, answering steadily, his voice never faltering. When asked if he had reason to lie, his answer was clear: I have every reason not to be here. But I can't ignore what I know. If I did, I'd be betraying everyone she's hurt, and myself. That statement struck the courtroom like a bolt, silencing even the most doubtful whispers. For the first time, Mariah realized just how cornered she was, how quickly the walls she built were caving in under the weight of her brother's truth. As the prosecutor thanked Noah and stepped back, the silence lingered. All eyes shifted toward Mariah, who now sat stiff, her fingers clenched into fists so tight her knuckles paled. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, the pressure building inside her like a storm she couldn't contain. The judge's gaze flickered between her and the jury, the air electric with expectation. Somewhere in the gallery, Faith buried her face in her hands, torn apart by the sight of her siblings turning on one another. Sharon sat frozen, her lips pressed into a thin line, knowing this was the cost of secrets too long ignored. And Victor, from his seat in the back, watched with the cold calculation of a man who had seen too many battles fought within the walls of his family. For Mariah, the sound of the gavel calling for a recess was both a relief and a torment. She couldn't escape the fact that Noah's testimony had landed like a hammer blow. She could feel the whispers pressing in on her, could sense the verdict already forming in the minds of those who had listened. She glanced once more at Noah, hoping for some flicker of softness, of regret, but his eyes remained fixed ahead, resolute. And in that moment, she knew, if there was any chance of saving herself, it was slipping away, one heartbeat at a time. The world of Genoa City is one built upon a foundation of secrets, a meticulously crafted facade of power, elegance, and familial loyalty that perpetually threatens to crumble under the weight of its own deceptions. For years, perhaps even decades, few characters have embodied this delicate balance of public grace and private cunning more completely than Mariah Copeland. Her journey, from a woman grappling with identity and a sense of belonging to a powerful media mogul and cherished member of the Newman and Abbott extended families, has been one of reformation and hard-won redemption. She has been a sister, a daughter, a friend, and a force to be reckoned with. Yet, the past in a place like Genoa City is never truly buried, it is merely interred in a shallow grave, waiting for the right combination of rain and circumstance to wash the dirt away and expose what lies beneath. The instrument of this exhumation proved to be Noah Newman, a man whose own gentle soul and history of avoiding conflict made him the most unlikely of avengers. His appearance in court, a moment foretold by spoilers but whose emotional resonance could not be fully predicted, was not merely a plot point but a seismic event that shattered lives, exposed profound betrayals, and ultimately served a long-delayed justice, placing Mariah behind bars and forcing a community to confront the darkness festering within one of its own. To understand the cataclysmic nature of Noah's testimony, one must first appreciate the intricate and deep-seated history between him and Mariah. Their connection was never simple. It was fraught with complexity, layered with genuine affection, shared trauma, and a competitive tension that occasionally curdled into something more sinister. Mariah's initial arrival in Genoa City, posing as Cassie Newman, the beloved deceased daughter of Sharon Newman, was an act of profound psychological violation against the entire Newman family, but particularly against Noah, who had loved and lost his sister. Though Mariah evolved, apologized, and was eventually forgiven, even welcomed into the family fold, that initial act of deception always lingered as a testament to her capacity for breathtaking manipulation when driven by a desperate need for love and identity. Over the years, they became allies, even friends, bound by their connection to Sharon and their roles within the powerful Newman dynasty. This shared history is what made Noah's eventual betrayal by Mariah so deeply personal and psychologically devastating. It wasn't an enemy striking from the outside, it was a trusted confidant, a quasi-sister, plunging the knife in from within the inner circle. The specific crimes that Noah exposed in court were not a single, impulsive mistake but a calculated and sustained campaign of manipulation that struck at the very heart of Noah's life, his family. The spoilers hinted at a revelation of unforgivable sins, and the truth proved to be even more damaging than speculation suggested. The central crime likely revolved around the delicate matter of baby Moses, Mariah's own child whom she had with Tessa Porter, but whom she had manipulated Noah into believing he had a different, more central role in conceiving. This manipulation could have involved forged documents, lies about biological parentage, or a calculated scheme to secure Noah's financial and emotional support under false pretenses. Furthermore, given Mariah's expertise in technology and her position at Chancellor Winters, her crimes almost certainly extended into the realm of cyber manipulation. This could have included hacking into private emails or medical records to support her deception, illegally surveilling Noah and his loved ones to stay one step ahead of the truth, or even engaging in identity fraud to create a false narrative that would hold up to initial scrutiny. Her actions were not those of a panicked individual making a bad choice but of a master strategist using every tool at her disposal to architect a reality that served her own desires, regardless of the catastrophic emotional fallout for others. The decision for Noah to take the stand was undoubtedly one of the most difficult of his life. Noah Newman has traditionally been the peacemaker, the artist, the son who sought a life away from the cutthroat business and personal battles that defined his parents. He is not Nick, with a history of explosive confrontations, nor Adam, forged in the fire of perpetual conflict. For Noah, pursuing justice meant fundamentally altering his own nature. He was forced to weaponize his truth, to channel his profound pain and betrayal into a cold, factual testimony that would be used to condemn someone he once cared for deeply. The internal struggle leading to that moment in the courtroom would have been immense. The pressure from his family, particularly Sharon, who loves both Noah and Mariah as her children, would have created an agonizing rift. There would have been moments of doubt, wondering if destroying Mariah's life was worth the collateral damage to their mother and to the entire family structure. Yet, the sheer scale of Mariah's deception, the theft of his autonomy, and the manipulation of his love for a child would have ultimately steeled his resolve. He was no longer acting just for himself, he was acting for the principle of truth, to protect his own future, and to ensure that such a profound violation could never happen again. The courtroom itself became a theater of high drama, a silent and stark space electrified by the gravity of the testimony. The scene would have been charged with a palpable tension, every eye fixed on Noah as he approached the stand. On one side, the prosecution, calm and methodical, guiding him through the timeline of his discovery. On the other, Mariah's defense attorney, poised to pick apart his story and question his motives. And in the middle, Mariah herself, her face likely a mask of attempted composure that could not fully conceal the terror and devastation in her eyes. Noah's testimony would not have been delivered with theatrical rage or vengeful spite. Instead, its power would have derived from its quiet, devastating clarity. He would have spoken methodically, his voice perhaps even shaking at times, recounting the specific moments his trust was violated, the lies he was told, and the chilling moment he unearthed the irrefutable evidence of her crimes. He might have described finding a hidden document, a cryptic message on a forgotten device, or a confession coerced from a reluctant accomplice. Each piece of evidence presented would have been another nail in the coffin of Mariah's freedom, and another blow to her spirit. The most heartbreaking moment would have been when he was forced to look at her, to directly address the woman he once considered family, and detail how her actions had broken him. This direct confrontation was not about shame, it was about accountability, a necessary and painful step in the judicial process that made the abstract concept of crime painfully, personally real for everyone in attendance. The impact of Noah's words rippled far beyond the judge and jury. The gallery would have been filled with the pillars of Genoa city society, each reacting according to their own relationship to the accused and the accuser. Sharon Newman would have been the portrait of absolute anguish, caught in an impossible conflict of maternal love. Her heart would be breaking for Noah, her son, whose pain was so visible, and simultaneously for Mariah, her daughter in every way that matters, whose world was collapsing in on itself. Tessa Porter, Mariah's wife, would likely be a figure of shock and horror, grappling with the realization that the woman she loved had built their life on a foundation of criminal deceit. The Newman family, including Victor and Nikki, would project stern, grim satisfaction. For Victor, a man who believes in punishing his enemies with absolute finality, Noah's actions would represent a necessary, if unpleasant, cleansing of the family's ranks. For others, like Nick and Victoria, it would be a sobering reminder of how vulnerability can be exploited from within their own circle. The verdict, when it came, would have landed not with a bang, but with a heavy, profound silence, followed by the inevitable and chilling sound of handcuffs. Mariah being led away, her head possibly held high in a final act of defiance or bowed in utter defeat, would be an image permanently seared into the memory of every witness. The aftermath of the trial leaves a transformed landscape in its wake. For Noah, there is no triumphant victory, only a hollowed-out sense of relief mixed with residual grief. He has achieved justice, but at the tremendous cost of his peace of mind and the dissolution of a familial bond. His journey moving forward will be one of healing, of learning to trust again, and of rebuilding his life on the solid ground of truth. His relationship with Sharon will be strained and require careful, painful navigation. For Mariah, a prison sentence is both a punishment and a crucible. Incarceration removes her from the world she fought so hard to belong to and forces her into a brutal introspection. She will be left with nothing but the consequences of her actions and the cold reality of the person she became. Her future, upon any potential release, will be defined by whether this experience breaks her completely or serves as the foundation for a genuine, unvarnished redemption, one without manipulation or lies. For the wider community, the event serves as a dark cautionary tale. It exposes the hidden fractures beneath the glossy surface of their lives, proving that no amount of wealth, power, or social standing can inoculate someone against the corrupting power of their own demons. It reinforces the old adage that the truth will always come out, and when it does not discriminate in its destructive path. In the final analysis, Noah Newman's court appearance and the subsequent jailing of Mariah Copeland is a cornerstone moment in the ongoing narrative of the young and the restless. It is a classic Shakespearean tragedy played out in a modern courtroom, where a good man is compelled to do a hard thing for the greater good, and a flawed, complex woman is ultimately brought low by the very talents that once elevated her. It transcends mere spoiler territory to explore profound themes of identity, forgiveness, and the immutable cost of betrayal. Noah did not just expose Mariah's crimes, he held up a mirror to everyone in Genoa City, forcing them to see that the line between family and foe, between truth and deception, is often perilously thin. The sound of the cell door closing behind Mariah does not signify an end, but rather a somber and new beginning for everyone involved, a bleak reminder that in a town built on secrets, justice, when it finally arrives, is as relentless and unforgiving as the passage of time itself.